Welcome to another Jeep Patriot channel YouTube video. This one is per request. Had a user ask me about replacing the struts. There are not the struts, but the springs. There are two types of lifts that you can do for a Jeep Patriot. First one is a spacer lift like what I have, made by Rocky Road Outfitters out of Utah. The second one is a spring replacement. You can buy that from a company in the UK. I'm amiss of their name off the top of my head, but if you go to jeeppatriot.com, there's that information there. So to get started, what you would actually do is you just remove the whole strut assembly from underneath the car. There's these two bolts down here that are at the bottom of the strut. The link for the sway bar. Then on the other side, which you can't really see here, is the link that holds the bracket for the brake line so it doesn't get caught up. Once you get those disassembled down here, then you would remove these three bolts here. Up here there is a disc that the strut actually attaches to. Kind of looks like a plate with a post coming up through the whole bottom of it. That actually holds the top of the spring. Then on the bottom of the spring is the strut assembly, which you can see if I come back down here. There's this spring guard which doesn't give me much clearance for bigger tires. Unfortunately, I have 30-inch tires on here and I can barely squeeze my finger in there. So you get that out. Before you actually take that out, just as a reminder, you want to support the front end of the vehicle. You want to get both tires up off the ground, get some good jack stands, and then when you go to take the strut off, you actually take a jack and compress it a little bit when you go to take the bolts off. Then after you take the bolts off, then you release the jack so that it slowly comes down until it comes free. If you just try to disassemble it as is, you'll put extra stress on your bolts and it could forcibly come out, which you don't want. You're dealing with a very high strength spring in here, so you want to be very careful with what you're doing. This part isn't too dangerous, but you just want to make sure that you drop it slowly so that it doesn't just spring off on you and shear off a bolt or smash your finger or anything like that. So that's the way I do it typically, or I should say always, is to put the car up on jack stands and then use my hydraulic jack under the front. I usually put it under the ball joint. Is the best place for it because it's pretty stable there. Then once you have this unit out, you need to compress the spring. These are my spring compressors. I bought these inexpensively at AutoZone many years ago, and I've used them many times, so they've definitely given me my money's worth. They latch on, the spring comes up in this groove, and then you latch it on with this pin, and it has a little ball in there to hold it tight so it doesn't easily slide back. And then the top part of it moves freely, and then the bottom part is attached to the the screw is threaded through it. So as you twist it, they actually tighten up. So this one's loose and this one's tight together from being screwed tighter. Now the important thing that you want to make sure is as you tighten this, that you get as much compression out of the spring as possible without getting anything stuck in it or squished in it. So as you do it, you just want to make sure that you select two spots opposite of each other, and then as you tighten it down, you want to do a little bit on one and a little bit on the other side and a little bit on the back and forth, because if you tighten one side too much, you'll put too much stress on the other side. Like this is too big of a difference, and so this would actually have a lot of pressure on it from that spring expanding on this side. So you want to make sure that you tighten them fairly evenly as you tighten it. Then another very important tool that you'll want, I grabbed the wrong size here, but is one of these wrenches that is angled, so it actually fits down inside. Shouldn't be bad camera work. Actually fits down inside, so this obviously won't be on the vehicle anymore. But you can see here, hopefully you can see, there is a bolt down in there, and then the top of this has it's flat. So what you do is you put this down on there, get that bolt in tight, and then you would use, you know, like a monkey wrench or something similar to actually grab on, and hold the center post steady while you use the wrench to actually twist. One thing that I'd highly recommend is this job takes a lot of work, and because you're just holding the strut between your knees, or you don't want to put it in any kind of vice grip because you don't want to dent the tube at all or put any excess pressure on the tube, I highly recommend spraying it with some sort of lithium grease or some sort of loosening agent beforehand. Now this one has that post with the flat sides on it. It's flat on one side and then flat on the other side. Some of them, this is my Patriot, is 2012. Some of them, instead of having that post that sticks up, have an Allen wrench type hole. If I can get my focus on that. So you'll want something like this. So take a look, see what you got. Make sure your tools work and fit in that hole well before you start working on the car. You don't want to take something apart, get halfway through, and not have a vehicle to take you to the shop to get you the right parts. So now if you don't have a lift, this will be much easier to see. I have a spacer lift, which you can see there. Without the spacer lift, this would actually be sticking up above this center ring a little bit, you know, so you could actually make sure the tool fits on before you go to do the work. So that's how you you get it done. Then once you've compressed the spring, if you're doing the if you're just replacing the strut, then you just take the spring off and put it on the new strut. If you're actually replacing the spring, you want to be real careful that you release the tension off of your spring compressors very carefully and slowly until the spring is fully extended. Again, those springs have a lot of pressure in them, so you just want to handle them with care. Just be smart, and you shouldn't have any problems. And then you'll compress the new spring before trying to assemble the unit. Get it compressed as much as you can before assembly. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'm also at jeeppatriot.com under the username Around in Circles. You'll find me there as well. Thank you for watching.